Welcome to Food Exposed, where each week we take an inside look at what's on your plate. I'm your host, Jackie Keller. I'm the founding director of NutriFit, Los Angeles' leading healthy food company. And today we're talking about staying healthy under the pressure of life on the road, which can be very challenging, even for the most experienced traveler. You know, millions of people fall ill every year, and many even die as a result of eating unsafe food. So what causes this lack of food safety? There's a combination of many factors, but here are some simple rules to remember about food safety. Number one, keep hot foods hot. 2, keep cold foods cold. And number 3, keep all areas clean. So you really have to plan ahead. Travel with non-controversial foods, things that are easily identified, like bars, dried fruit, nuts, and keep the portions small enough to eat in just one serving. Avoid very salty foods because they can help you bloat and retain water, and that is often a problem when you're traveling anyway. So you don't want to exacerbate that problem by having really salty foods, because then you'll want liquids, and you don't want to risk taking liquids through security. No soups, no smoothies, sometimes even salad dressings are going to be confiscated. So don't take them with you because you're probably going to get them taken away anyway. Fresh fruit and turkey jerky are great travel snacks. But if you're in international travel, and this is happening to me, I can say it does happen. Remember, you have to consume any open food before you land and pass through agricultural inspection, because if you don't, not only will they take it away from you, but they will fine you, because if you're traveling internationally, you can't take animal proteins across country borders, and there's nothing more depressing than having them take away some expensive turkey jerky that you bought and you didn't eat. Well, my guest today is a very experienced traveler. She spends about 60% of her working days on the road and knows all too well what toll a schedule like that can take on your health, your sleep, your stress levels, your eating habits. As the California director for the National Wildlife Federation, Beth Pratt has worked in environmental leadership roles for over 20 years, including 2 of the largest the country's largest national parks, Yosemite and Yellowstone, are 2 of my favorite places. She lives outside of Yosemite right now with her 4 dogs, 2 cats, 3 western toads, and she even has a frog pond in her backyard, which is a certified wildlife habitat. Beth Pratt, welcome to Food Exposed.
Thanks for having me, Jackie.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
You came all the way from Yellowstone this morning.
Yosemite, yeah. Oh, I wish
Yosemite.
I could, yeah. Yellowstone's too cold right now.
But even Yosemite, that's quite a drive.
Yeah, it's about 4.5 hours. But for me, that's a walk in the park these days with all the traveling I do. So
almost literally, right?
Exactly.
Well, I know that we've met several times, both in the course of the National Wildlife Federation, but also in the course of our shared interest in the Climate Reality Leadership Corps.
Yep.
How are those 2 interests connected for you, Beth?
Yeah, well, obviously, for me, with the National Wildlife Federation, I work to, conserve wildlife and to do things to make sure we have wildlife in the future. And climate change, of course, is one of the overriding impacts for both people and wildlife. So the 2 are so interrelated. And it was fun spending time with you, training with Al Gore 2 summers ago now,
right,
to make ourselves more aware and better able to communicate about climate change. Because for me, it's the issue for both wildlife and people.
You must be seeing a lot of impact of climate change just in Yosemite, right?
Yeah, I've lived up there for 15 years, have been going to Yosemite for 25 years now, and just anecdotally I'm noticing stuff. The frogs are coming earlier to my frog pond. They're singing, their mating song earlier. We had one of the, a fire season just in my area that was just terrifying. We had the rim fire in Yosemite, and some think that climate change is fueling that. They're burning longer, hotter, and bigger. And of course, we're having the worst drought now in some say 500 years. Yeah. And birds are impacted by that. Bears are coming out of hibernation earlier. So a lot of impacts, yep.
Yeah. Well, tell us more about the work that you do on a day in and day out basis, and what takes you on the road so much?
Yeah. So I have the best job in the world, as you know. I get to drive around California and get people inspired to help wildlife, and it's an amazing job. And you know, that's how we've met through the National Wildlife Federation. And so California is a big state, as we know. So I spend, as you said, about 60 to 70% of my time on the road because I have projects all over the state. Here in LA, we're working on, I think it's one of the most inspiring wildlife conservation projects I can think of.
Tell us about it.
We have P22. Most of you know P22 is living in the middle of Griffith Park. He's a mountain lion. He had to cross 2 major freeways to get there. I mean, that's an average.
That's more than most of us can
Yes.
do in LA traffic, I think.
I don't even survive that 405. So, you know, so he's in Griffith Park. But an average mountain lion territory is 250 square miles. He's making do with 8.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
So we're working on building with the National Park Service and the USGS and the Santa Monica Mountains Fund a wildlife crossing on the 101 so that it doesn't happen again, so that animals like P22 have safe space and can disperse to green areas and not be living 2 miles from the Hollywood
Now,
Walk.
let me ask you something. Will they, like, use the freeway overpass? I mean, honestly?
Yes, animals do. They build these
amazing.
underpasses, overpasses, and animals do use them. I mean, and they know these areas are pinch points, and animals use existing underpasses now. So, you know, they know where these animals are funneling, and they build it, and they will come. So.
Wow.
And really, the future of the Santa Monica mountain lion population is dependent on things like this. They're not going to survive if they can't move.
So that project brings you to LA a lot.
I will be here a lot. Yes, it's a big project. It's a monumental undertaking. So I'm down here at least once a month, probably twice.
Okay, and I know we've talked about some of the challenges that you personally have faced with all of this travel and the impacts on your own personal health.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and I can't thank you enough, Jack. I mean, you know, we came together through our shared love of the environment, but what's been helpful is your coaching around, you know, I put a lot into my work. I travel a lot. And what suffered has been, you know, my fitness and health. When we first started talking, you know, I told you I was in the worst shape of my life because I was driving, I was sitting at the computer all day, and the things you talked about, those challenges, I was eating badly, not exercising. So I'd say the 2 biggest challenges for me is, you know, when you're not working in an office and sitting all the time and doing a routine, and when you go on these trips, it's really hard to make time to exercise. You know, sometimes you're working from 7 to 11 at night, plus you know, it's hard to just find time. And then the eating badly. You're eating quickly, or you're going out to dinner or lunch. You know, businesses meetings seem to, you know, gel around a meal. And when the other person is having this elaborate, beautiful, delicious, high-calorie dinner, it's hard to sit there with water and a salad. So those have been some of the challenges I know you've been working with me on, and it's I'm making a lot of progress. It's great.
Well, we talked about you know, the fact that you are willing, and it's unusual from my perspective, for somebody to be willing to go public about their challenges with weight and health and eating properly. So we talked about a creative way of doing that that kind of fit with the dynamic of charity and philanthropy and being public.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that.
This is really fun. So one of the things, you know, Jackie worked with me with is, all right, we know you're a person who's motivated, very self-motivated, and especially around my main motivation is I want to save wildlife. So in looking at, you know, the weight gain and me being out of shape, you know, your coaching was, let's look at motivations. What motivates you? And what we came up with jointly is what motivates me is saving wildlife, obviously. So how do you tie that into weight loss? So brainstorming between the 2 of us, we came up with what if you do directly tie that into weight loss? So we came up with the idea of Weigh In for a Cause.
Right.
Which we're, I think, about to launch, which is you set a goal weight and you set up a fundraising campaign, much like you do for a walkathon or something,
right,
where people give money. But if you don't get to your goal weight, the nonprofit doesn't get the money. So we thought this was a great motivator because I mean, if you're putting money up for the puppies at the SPCA, you're going to make your goal weight.
That's
because,
right. That's right. That's right.
You know, you don't want to disappoint them. And what's fun is getting the nonprofit involved too. Obviously, they're going to have some motivation.
So you're a nonprofit, and this week we're calling this Weighing In for a Cause, and we're doing this on CrowdRise. And your nonprofit is?
Yeah, so I work for the National Wildlife Federation, but we partner with Save the Frogs. In fact, you know, the mountain lion is one of my projects, but another one of my projects is we're going to be doing this campaign for the red-legged frog around California. So I chose for my Weigh In for a Cause that joint project that we're doing. So here's Save the Frogs. And frogs are one of my favorite animals. So we're excited about this. And Kerry, the executive director, Kerry Krieger for Save the Frogs, he has promised to be emailing me daily to make sure I am not exceeding my calorie count and to take me on hikes. So I think it's fun to get the nonprofit involved too. But also, you know, NutriFit's a very philanthropic organization. You know, you help National Wildlife Federation donating your time, your services, but you're also going to put up some money for your clients.
And in fact, I have a check for you for the National Wildlife Federation to support the Save the Frogs and the Weighing In for the Cause. And if I understand it correctly, you have to like give some of this back if you don't make your goal, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
a portion of this is a portion of this is going to go to the Save the Frogs campaign.
There you
go.
So
Kerry and all you staff at Save the Frogs, start emailing me to make sure I'm not eating too much.
Well, you know what? In fact, I thought what we would do now is take a minute to cook up something really quick and easy that you can use for your road trips. Something nutritious, something clean, something easy, something quick, something that doesn't require refrigeration. So you join me for a little cooking?
That would be wonderful. I'd love some tips.
Let's go. All right, so we're going to make something really simple now.
Awesome.
And I chose this recipe. They're quinoa, and we call them quinoa and flour fritters. And I chose the recipe because quinoa, as you know, is a very wholesome grain. It's very high in protein. It has no gluten, not that you necessarily, I know you don't have celiac disease or anything, but you know, you want to minimize you want to incorporate more variety wherever you can. So quinoa is one of the most popular foods right now. It's very simple to make. You can find it anywhere. You just rinse it before you cook it, and then you put it up in water and you let it simmer. That's it. 15 minutes later, it's done. And if you make it plain, like I did, then you can season it however you want afterwards and use it however you want to use it. So, so we start with some cooked quinoa. And that's what I've done here. I pre-cooked it to make it a little bit faster for us. And into a bowl it goes with a little bit of rice flour just to get it to stick together. And this is just a grocery store plain rice flour, Japanese rice flour. And then I'm going to add a little bit of egg substitute. Now this is just egg white in a carton, but you can crack an egg and beat it and add it in. So you can see what you're aiming for is a fairly wet consistency, but we're going to bind it even further with a little bit of cheese. Okay. And this is low-fat mozzarella cheese. Just plain mozzarella. Oops, a little bit more than you need, but then you go a little bit less with the other cheese, which is a little bit of Parmesan. And finally, our fiber, not only from the quinoa, but from cauliflower. So this adds some vegetable into this. Yeah, and you know, cauliflower is just steamed cauliflower chopped up. So very simple. A little bit of salt and sugar-free seasoning to give it some flavor, and this is one of our salt and sugar-free seasoning blends. This is our Mediterranean blend, but you could use basil or whatever your favorite sugar-free blends are, whatever you like the best. And one thing you don't want to do is add in any salt because, you know, the cheese has a lot of salt in it to begin with.
So you don't want to put any more.
You don't need any more salt. And remember we talked about...
I notice when traveling, even minimal amounts of salt, boy, I start feeling it, definitely.
Yeah. And so we're stirring it up here, and then I'm going to have you spray the skillet lightly with a little bit of extra virgin olive oil spray.
Nobody's going to believe I'm cooking.
A little closer.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right.
Okay.
And now, and we have a lot of mixture here, far more than we're going to make. But you see, we need to get something in there before we burn the bottom of that skillet. So grab a spoon
Okay.
and follow me.
Okay.
You can make them as big as you want to make them. They can be little, they can be medium. My thought was that you would be eating these sort of in the car.
Yes, I it's a bad habit, but with the amount of driving I do, eating and driving is very efficient. So
Yes.
these do look perfect for nibbling while I'm driving.
Okay,
Yep.
so we're gonna like form them into little.
Okay.
There you go. See? Who said you couldn't
I'm
cook?
cooking. Hey,
Look
Mom,
at
I'm cooking. She'd never believe it.
Yeah, and then we'll flatten them
Flatten
down
them
a
out.
little bit
Okay.
so that we make like a nice little. You know, and obviously if you were making these at home, you could use a scoop, like an ice cream scoop or something, to get nice uniform sizes and things like that. But you can tell it's not that fancy.
And this is perfect because, you know, even with the natural, it is really hard to buy healthy snacks sometimes.
Right.
You know, that's what's, so this is perfect.
And this is probably not the ideal cooking implement because what I really want is the spatula to flip it. But you kind of get the drift,
Yep.
right? So they cook pretty quickly because essentially all we're doing is cooking the egg that bound it together because
okay.
the quinoa is already cooked, the cheese doesn't require cooking. So we just want to cook it till the egg allows it to set up and bind it together. And they get nice and toasty.
Okay.
And then the challenge is going to be, of course,
To flip it.
To flip it, yeah. But it's not quite there yet. So one suggestion that I have for this recipe is to make a big batch of them and freeze them because they really freeze beautifully.
Oh.
And if what you want is something that you have handy that you can just grab and go, this is truly grab and go food.
Oh,
They're
that's
not
perfect.
greasy, so they're great for the car because the other thing about them is they're balanced. You know, you have
Right.
protein, you have fiber, you have carbohydrate, you have a little bit of healthy fat. So it's really an ideal meal.
And I love that the cauliflower's in there because, you know, you get your
gotta
vegetable,
get your
and you gotta get
vegetable
your
in there,
vegetable
you know, and
which is the one I always struggle with.
Is that-
I can do getting the vegetables. I'm from Boston, Irish. We don't eat vegetables.
No? Potatoes are sort of like cauliflower.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so I think we're about
yeah.
ready to attempt the flip. Oop.
Okay, oop.
Well, no, that one failed. You want to give it a try?
Oh God. Well, if you're having trouble, but yeah, I'm willing.
All right, go for it.
I got to learn to do this because this looks like the perfect snack for.
Well, trust me, if you have a flat spatula, it probably works perfectly.
Okay, there we go.
You get,
Yay,
see, you know, it's not bad. Not bad. Not bad.
There we go.
One or two more, and then maybe you'll want to sample. What do you think?
I think so, boy.
All right, great.
Oh, I'm not going to be able to flip that. I'll give it to you.
All right, you know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn this guy off.
Okay.
And the good
There
news
they
is
are.
that there's some. Look at that! Aren't they
Wow.
perfect? Anyway, give it a try. Tell me what you think.
Oh, it's a perfect snack.
Now, could you eat that on
Yes.
the road?
That
You know,
should be
and
perfect.
The nice thing about that is that it can go through customs too. It can go through security. They're not going to take it away from you. So while ideally you'd want to eat whatever you brought.
Well, this is perfect airplane food too because, like you said, you have to a lot gets confiscated. So
Right.
And airports are traps. I mean, you get in there, and of course, you want the junky food when
Yeah.
you're in there. So
Yeah, that's
coming
true.
armed with these would be perfect.
All right, great. Well, Beth, I
perfect.
know that everybody is going to want to follow you. They're going to want to keep up with what you do. What's the best way for people to reach you?
You know, I'd say the two ways: Facebook, Beth Pratt 1. The number 1, and I post great photos of wildlife as I travel
That
around.
is true. You
Yeah.
definitely do.
Want to see mountain lions? My Twitter handle is Beth Pratt, or NWF California is also a Facebook page that again is a lot of adventures and wildlife photos. So,
Great.
and also we'll be posting on how I do with my goal weight. So
and
tune in.
And we can find that on.
I'll be posting that on my Facebook page
Great.
and the NWF California Facebook page as well.
Wonderful.
So,
Well, thank you so much
thank
for coming.
you, Jackie.
It was
It's always
great.
wonderful to see you.
Yeah, and I wish you good luck. I know you're already losing some weight,
Yes,
right?
I'm down 8 pounds,
And-
yeah, I feel great. So it feels, and I can't thank you enough because your coaching and your food has been instrumental in that.
Well,
so
you're
thank you.
most welcome.
So you're helping wildlife by helping me.
All right. All right. I'd like to talk a minute with you today about commitment with passion. No, I'm not talking about the romantic kind, as in intimate relationships with others, not that kind of commitment, but I'm talking about the kind of commitment that leads to creating self-fulfilling prophecies. Let's face it, pursuing your goals, even if you're highly motivated, isn't always a piece of cake, and nearly everything means overcoming some kind of obstacle, personal sacrifice, and risking some failure. So developing skills for this requires some form of patience, practice, labor, and passionate commitment carries many benefits. It reinforces our sense of autonomy, but also helps us feel like we belong to something. And when we follow through on our decisions to do something, it shields us from social pressures. For that reason, when we make a commitment in front of others, it's particularly potent. You know, there was a study that was recently done at the University of Scranton, and it found that people who made public New Year's resolutions were 10 times more likely to succeed at their goal. And there are many people who've written about commitment and how it relates to achievement. There's some great quotes from leading business gurus. Here's one I particularly like. Unless commitment is made, there are only hopes and promises, but no plans. And that's a quote from Peter Drucker. And a one from Stephen Covey. Without involvement, there is no commitment. Mark it down, asterisk it, circle it, underline it. So what about talking about committing publicly like Beth did? How about doing that? Check out Weigh In for a Cause as your way to cement your goal. And do well by doing good. Thanks for joining us today on Food Exposed. Join us next week for another look at what's on your plate. For more Food Exposed, check me out on emPOWERme.tv. And until next week, remember, make food your best friend and exercise your companion for life.